This is the sad story about the general manager that ruined a Super Bowl roster.
I gave you fair warning, beware.
Smack him in the mouth. Corner the end zone. It is caught for the touchdown.
Smack him in the mouth. I gave you fair warning, beware.
I'll smack him in the mouth.
The Chargers have went from potentially being Super Bowl bound to having a top 5 pick in just 3 seasons. And trust me, every step of the way has been fucking depressing. This story starts 3 years ago at the beginning of 2021. The Chargers were coming off a 7-9 season and had just fired their head coach Anthony Lynn. But Justin Herbert had just exploded his rookie season. The team had Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, Joey Bosa, and Derwin James already rostered to build this team around. And the team had the top 5 most cap space to spend the next 2 seasons. What some would call a perfectly built championship window. Chargers general manager Tom Telesco swung and missed on Mike McCoy, swung and missed on Anthony Lynn. So down 0-2 in the count, he could not swing and miss on this head coaching hire in 2021. Eric Bieniemy, Brian Daboll, even Robert Saleh were all available and rumored to have interest from the Chargers. And honestly, all 3 would have been great fucking hires at this point. But ultimately, I mean, you know the story. The Los Angeles Chargers would go and hire unknown defensive coordinator Brandon Staley. Staley was a former quarterback himself in college and had ascended extremely quickly through the coaching ranks with the LA Rams to the position of defensive coordinator. He was looked at and thought of as the perfect dual threat head coach. He has the offensive knowledge from back when he played, and the defensive knowledge as a defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams, who had the best defense in the league the year he was the coordinator, by the way. But unfortunately, this was actually the first domino to fall in the Chargers' collapse. Before we get to this year's 5-12 2023, 2021 and 2022 were filled with hope for Chargers fans. In those 2 off seasons, the team added all-pros Corey Linsley, Khalil Mack, and J.C. Jackson. They drafted Rashawn Slater, Zion Johnson, Joshua Palmer, and Asante Samuel Jr. In fact, by the start of the 2023 season, the Los Angeles Chargers had 12 former All-Pro or Pro Bowlers on the roster. 22% of the team was all pros or Pro Bowl level players. But like I said, that first domino had already fallen in my Bolts' saga. Brandon Staley had been getting criticized for his awful decision making even in the 2021 season. And throughout 2021 and 2022, the team clearly lacked mid-game adjustments. They were getting blown the fuck out in the second half of games. And to end both the 2021 and 2022 seasons, Staley's aggressive play calling, lack of adjustments, and failure to just simply lead this team reared its ugly head. To end the 2021 season, the infamous Week 18 game went down, where the Chargers were roaring into the playoffs until it was all stopped in a win-or-get-in game against the Las Vegas Raiders. In that game, Brandon Staley decided to go for it and fail from his own 18-yard line. And then, of course, there's the infamous timeout that would have sent the Chargers to the playoffs if he just didn't call it. But he had to get a good run defense out there to defend a play where the Raiders were running the clock out. Instead of running the clock out, they run one more play. Josh Jacobs breaks it open for about 15, getting them into field goal range, and the rest is history. And then, of course, to end the 2022 season, it got even worse somehow. The Chargers had firmly made the playoffs, securing their spot before Week 18, which means Week 18, they were playing for nothing. And they lost their wide receiver 1 that season, Mike Williams, to a back injury in the final game of the year, and did not have him for the playoff game that they lost by 3 points. After Brandon Staley failed to make any halftime adjustments because his team had a huge lead going into halftime. A 27-point lead, which they fucking blew if you didn't see the game yourself. And despite all of this, the Chargers' Super Bowl championship window was still cracked open. But this team clearly lacked leadership. This team clearly lacked a head coach at the NFL level. And it would just be shitty if there were no other options and the Chargers were stuck with Staley to just watch this ship sink. But they did have an option because Coach Sean Payton wanted to come out of retirement and come over to the Chargers. He saw the potential in this roster and especially saw the potential long-term in a quarterback like Justin Herbert. I mean, Sean Payton had just done it for like 15 years with another Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. He was practically begging the Chargers to come to LA. The Chargers said, nah, we'll stick with our bozo we got as head coach. He's a lot cheaper. And what do you get for it? A few months later, Brandon Staley was fired, alongside the same GM that hired him with his final strike. All I will say is, as a die-hard Chargers fan, to my heart, to my core, is they cannot go through this again. And I mean again, as in you cannot fuck up this head coaching hire. And you cannot waste Justin Herbert's career the way you did Phillip Rivers again. History is repeating itself, Dean. And unless you do something drastically different, it's going to continue. It's not going to change. So please, for the love of God, go get him. Go get Jim. I'm sure you can hear the passion inside of me about this topic. But I'll be talking about the entire NFL, not just Chargers football, here on the channel from here on out. So make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you can be here for every upload. Make sure you like the video to help me out a ton in the algorithm and get out there to more of the NFLMike followers. Thank you guys so much for 200K on TikTok. Comment your thoughts on the Chargers collapse and who they should hire a head coach this year. I'm praying and hoping that it's Jim Harbaugh, but who knows who the Chargers will hire because they're one of the most unpredictable franchises, especially when it comes to head coaching hires in the entire NFL. But I guess sooner rather than later, the ball won't lie.